From Washington, I'm David French, in for Frank Sesno.
And good evening from London. I'm Hilary Bowker. Ahead this hour, Algeria's leader is dead, the victim of an assassination. The long-awaited Serbian withdrawal gets underway at Sarajevo's airport as the UN orders Canadian troops to secure and reopen the runways.
Also in this hour, an economic and environmental issue that's sure to provoke strong opinions.
Anybody who slaughters one of the great whales, in my opinion, is not fit to be called a human being, and is barbaric and uncivilized, and I feel strongly that.
We'll report on a meeting that may reopen the high seas for whale hunters.
We begin in Algeria, a country where the shaky status quo was ripped apart today by an assassin's bullets. Mohamed Boudiaf, the head of state for only 5 months, was gunned down while making a speech. Reports say his assassin also died on the spot, shot by a bodyguard. CNN's Rick Salinger reports on the assassination and its possible impact.
Mohamed Boudiaf headed the Algerian ruling council. It took power in January to prevent Muslim fundamentalists from winning elections. Witnesses say Boudiaf was hit in the back by 2 bursts of gunfire and killed while giving a speech. Algerian television carried an announcement of the assassination. Prayers from the Quran were read. 7 days of mourning will take place. The Islamic fundamentalist group FIS, or FIS, had been promising a revolt against the government since elections were halted when it seemed certain to win. Algeria has been shaken by unrest during the past year.
In fact, the FIS movement has been promising a generalized rebellion against the government for many months past and has failed to achieve this. What it does say is that there are a large number of people who are capable of armed resistance to the government, who've got the organization and the weapons to carry it out, and who've got the support base amongst the population.
The 73-year-old Boudiaf was a leader of Algeria's 1954 revolt against French rule. He spent more than 2 decades in exile before his return in January. Then President Chadli Benjedid was pushed from power. He has since been accused of corruption, and the accusations upset many of his supporters. He is from the area where the assassination occurred. Opposition groups were not surprised by the attack.
What has happened today is only part of a series of deteriorations that has been taking place in Algeria since the democratic process was halted last January. Unfortunately, we expect more of this to happen if democratization is not restored.
This is the first assassination of an Arab head of state since Egypt's President Anwar Sadat died in a hail of gunfire in Cairo. Islamic fundamentalists were held responsible for the October 1981 attack. Recently, the Algerian government claimed it gained the upper hand in its fight against opposition terrorism. The assassination of Boudiaf may now step up the fight between the fundamentalists and those in power. Rick Salinger, CNN, London.
Joining us now to discuss further the implications of Boudiaf's assassination is an expert on Middle East affairs. Shireen Hunter is with the Center for Strategic and International Studies. We welcome you.
Thank you.
What is the intended message behind this savage assassination?
Well, I think that what it really is intended to show is that the conflict or competition for Algeria's future has not ended, and that the Islamic forces, particularly the more radical among them, which seem to have gained actually paradoxically more power after the electoral process was suddenly cancelled, are intent on continuing their fight through other means, including subversion and assassination.
Are the comparisons, Ms. Hunter, that some are making with the '81 assassination of Anwar Sadat particularly instructive, or are they not?
Well, I really don't think that there are many parallels between the current assassination of Algerian President and President Anwar Sadat, because this is very much related to the internal situation in Algeria and the ongoing conflict between the military government and the Islamic movement, whereas President Sadat's assassination was much more directly linked to the regional issues, international issues, and particularly the Arab-Israeli conflict.
Are the fundamentalists, Islamic fundamentalists, whose election victory was blocked by the appointment of Boudiaf so few months ago, are they going to gain by this, do you think, in the region?
Well, I don't think that they're going to gain by this, because it shows that, they indeed are willing to go to extreme lengths. But I think that what it's going to show, at least the message that it's going to send, that by blocking the democratic process, one does not cope effectively with such forces, because they can always go underground and revert to subversion, and that some other way has to be found.
Yet the assassins are perceived as very well organized. Someone got very close to Boudiaf with an automatic weapon in a crowd where he was giving a speech. He obviously had high security there. 2 hand grenades went off in differing parts of the crowd, creating havoc. A very organized approach. What do you gather from that?
Well, what it is, again, it shows that perhaps indeed, if it is proven, because that the person who did kill the president was indeed a member of the Islamic movement, it shows that they indeed have perhaps infiltrated much more than one would have thought. Perhaps they have been able to also gain access into the military even, or perhaps the security organization, which of course does not augur well for the stabilization of Algeria's situation in the near future.
And the region. Other parts of the Arab world face trouble from Muslim extremists. Egypt's Mubarak is said to be one fearing that. Is the danger spreading?
Well, I think that certainly there is a widespread, I would say, and deep malaise in the Middle East, and it has many dimensions. And one of these dimensions is, frankly, is a impatience of the people because of the lack of participatory politics. And I think that many of the Islamic movements are indeed feeding on this situation. Obviously, there is a serious dilemma here, because once some of these extremist movements take part in the electoral process, then they want to stop the very same process that brought them to power.
Let me interrupt just briefly to say that we have pictures fresh in from Algeria as we prepare to roll those and see them for the first time. I presume it's of the event where he was speaking, and we're not hearing it now, of course. But he's 75 years old, giving a political speech. Look, they're ducking. Obviously, the gunfire, a flash of a probable hand grenade there. Incredible panic and turmoil. Again, we're seeing it without sound. And obviously, perhaps even the people taking the pictures are having to leave the camera in order to stay alive or to stay uninjured. And the camera's obviously just akimbo. And the security forces are coming in, and we'll soon see a gurney coming up. Obviously very distraught people. I guess what we want to know is the potential for recurrence of this. We were just hinting about Egypt and other places. Your view of the potential for more such acts?
Well, the potential is certainly there, and as the economic and political malaise of Middle East deepens, I think that such things could happen. But a lot also would depend how various governments are going to handle the situation.
What would you like to see from the West? Those who like to pursue democracy, what should the United States and other nations be doing?
Well, I frankly would say that we should take the risk of democracy, because it's only in that way that other forces, countervailing forces, could come to the fore and can offer an alternative to extremists, whether are religious extremists or secular extremists. Moreover, it's only in that way, by allowing these people to take part in government, that the weakness of their slogans and the weakness of their prescription for dealing with these problems will be clarified, and then their influence will be, I think, reduced.
A shocking event in the world. Shireen Hunter of the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Thanks again for coming to be with us.
Coming up later this hour, the UN turns up the heat on Serbian forces in an effort to get the airport in Sarajevo open to humanitarian flights.
And an emotional funeral service for victims of a massacre in a black South African township earlier this month. Later in the hour, a security scare when Britain's Princess Di visits Belfast. These stories and more coming up.
You've dreamed about it for years. You've planned every detail. At last, you've made the dream come to life. You've put so much into it. Put Olympic stain on it. It's the protection that keeps your home as beautiful as your dream. Olympic from PPG protects more homes than any other stain.
PPG salutes the American spirit.
Keeping your yard beautiful is pretty tough if you're watering with an old sprinkler like this one. It leaves dry spots in some places, messy puddles in others. Rainbird's new Dancing Waters changes all that. It throws water with a unique pulsing action that sprinkles evenly, much like rain. And because they're so durable, Rainbird backs every Dancing Water sprinkler with a 10-year warranty.
Dancing Waters by Rainbird. For a dealer near you, call 800-866-3288.
If you see just one, hundreds more are in your wall. But cockroaches can't hide from the exterminator, the Orkin Man. The exterminator seeks